Have you ever found yourself just scrolling, and you finally look up from your phone and feel like your brain has turned to total mush? You might even wonder, man, what happened? How do I get back to the person I used to be? Well, today, we're going to dive into how self-education can be your best defense against that exact feeling, all based on one person's journey to reclaim her own focus. So let's kick things off with this quote from Virginia Woolf. Now, she was talking about World War II, but wow, does it hit home today? Because we're in a different kind of battle now, aren't we? It's a fight for our own minds. And that's really the heart of it. Every single notification, every algorithm, every 30-second video, they're all fighting for a little piece of your mental real estate. And this isn't just about being distracted. It's way deeper. It's about the tools we use to think, to make sense of the world around us. Okay, so what do you call that feeling? That mental fog after hours of just consuming stuff online. It's that thing you can feel happening, but it's kind of hard to put a name to. Well, there's a term for it, and you've probably heard it floating around. Yep, brain rot. And get this, it's officially the Oxford Dictionary's word of the year for 2024. So this isn't just some silly internet meme anymore. It's a real, recognized cultural feeling. It's that sense that your brain is just kind of getting softer from binging on easy, unchallenging content. And this is what it actually looks like day to day. The endless scrolling, asking an AI bot a question you could have figured out yourself, just watching instead of actually doing. And what's really interesting is that even something that seems useful, like a tutorial on how to knit, can become part of the problem if all you do is watch it instead of picking up the needles yourself. So to really get what's going on in our heads, let's use that classic analogy, because it's spot on. Think of your brain like a muscle. If you don't give it a real workout, it's not going to stay strong. This idea is called cognitive reserve, and this chart breaks it down perfectly. A brain with a high reserve has all these strong, healthy connections between its cells, and you build those by actively using your brain. On the flip side, a brain with a low reserve has fewer and weaker connections. The bottom line? Quick, easy-to-digest content just isn't a heavy enough lift to build or even maintain those crucial pathways. So let's be clear. Brain rot sounds pretty scary, but it's not like your brain is literally decaying. It's more like a state of cognitive neglect. And you know what the best part about neglect is? You can reverse it. You can start taking care of it again. So, how do we fight back? How do we reverse it? Well, the antidote is actually pretty simple, but incredibly powerful. Active, intentional self-education. So why does this work so well? For starters, it's accessible to pretty much everyone. You don't need to enroll in a fancy university. But maybe more importantly, it runs on intrinsic motivation. You're doing it just for you, not for a boss or a grade. And honestly, that ability to do something hard just for the sake of it, that's a skill in itself, one we're kind of at risk of losing. And yeah, the science backs it up. Learning new stuff literally builds a stronger brain. And this is the mindset you gotta have. This isn't about productivity. It's not another task to optimize on your calendar. You have to go into it with pure curiosity. Remember that feeling you had as a kid when you just wanted to take something apart to see how it worked? That's the vibe. All right, let's get into the how-to, the practical toolkit. There's a really simple 4-step framework you can use to get started on this whole journey. It's called the SCAR method. The 4 steps are select, curate, apply, and reflect. So first, you select a topic you're actually excited about, not something you feel like you should be learning. Then you curate or gather your resources. After that, you apply what you're learning, and finally, you reflect on it all to see what's sticking and where the gaps are. Let's zoom in on that second step, curate. I mean, we have the entire internet in our pockets, right? It's so easy to get totally overwhelmed with information. So here's a great little rule to keep you focused. It's called the rule of 3. Just find one foundational text, like a solid textbook or a core book on your subject. Then find one expert to follow. This could be a creator on YouTube, a professor, anyone really. And finally, find one active community, maybe a subreddit or a local meetup. This gives you structure and depth without totally drowning you in a sea of tabs. Okay, on to the apply step. This is huge. How do you know if you actually get something? Try the Feynman technique. The idea is simple. Can you explain the concept in super simple terms, like you're teaching it to a kid? If you start stumbling or have to use a bunch of jargon, boom, you've just found the exact spot where your own understanding is weak. That's your cue to go back and review.
Now, for more hands-on stuff, like learning to bake or play guitar, it's a little different. For those, you should constantly be asking yourself, okay, what am I doing right now and why am I doing it? It's the difference between just knowing a cake recipe calls for baking powder and understanding what the baking powder actually does to make the cake rise. That is where the real learning happens.
So, as you get started on this, it really helps to know about a couple of common traps that can easily throw you off course before you even get going. First, you've got the beginner blues. That's when you get super frustrated because you're not an expert overnight. The only way through that is to learn to love the process, even the messy parts. Then there's shiny object syndrome. This is where you jump from topic to topic, basically treating learning like another form of endless scrolling. The fix for that? Instead of switching topics, switch up your methods for learning that one topic. And this story about learning to knit is just a perfect example of beating the beginner blues. It took years of practice, of making tons of lopsided, misshapen scarves, just to get to the point where she could make clothes that actually fit. The key takeaway here is that falling in love with the process is what carries you through all those tough early days to a place that's so rewarding. So as we start to wrap this up, I think it's really important to remember that this whole thing, it's more than just a brain hack or another productivity tip. It's actually much deeper than that. What this is really all about is reclaiming a part of your own identity. It's about remembering that deep down, you're a curious person, you're an engaged person, you're someone who seeks out knowledge just for the joy of it. This is how you get back to the person you know you are. And that really just leaves us with one last question to think about. It's a choice, really, about how you want to move through the world. Are you going to be an active participant and experience life directly in all its complexity? Or are you going to have it broken down, simplified, and served to you on a pocket-sized platter? The choice is up to you.